So the working title of this paper is The Role of Founders' Religious Identity in Coping with Venture Failure. So at the moment, the data we have collected is based with the social entrepreneurs in Sweden. I am a third-year PhD candidate at Jönköping University, as he has already mentioned, which is a good pronunciation. Thank you very much for that. So I think that one of the things that is so important in life is to understand what failure means. So I'm just going to try and see what's happening here, because now I can't move my slides. Yeah, perfect. So I believe that we all have faced failure in our lives one way or another, and failure is something that we cannot be able to escape. And failure is important for us to understand in order to be successful. So what problem is my research trying to understand? In this case, what I'm looking into, I'm particularly caring much about social ventures that have been closed down, who are in the process maybe of filing for bankruptcy. One of the most critical events that we all understand about entrepreneurship is that entrepreneurs can face or encounter failure. That means that they would have to close down their businesses because it's no longer financially viable. However, when we look at research when it comes to entrepreneurial failure, you can see that research on entrepreneurship predominantly focuses on success, which pretty much ignores the high rate of failure within new ventures. So what I looked at, I was like, okay, so how much work has been done in terms of entrepreneurial failure? Of course, we can see that the conversation has been going on. We can see that they've been looking into things like learning from failure, emotions and relative stigma related to failure, causes and consequences of failure. But what I noticed was that with limited to no reference to religion, and as Smith has mentioned with colleagues, that it is important for us to look at religion, the role of religion and entrepreneurship, particularly around failure and even defeat. One of the things that I saw was that most of the time, the literature confirms that most of the time entrepreneurs have a strong identity association with their ventures, which means that they might experience failure more significantly than non-entrepreneurs. And one of the things that you can see, which is on the contrary, they would feel that failure less strongly if they have religious identity, which prevails during failure. And what do I mean about this? So what I think the relationship is important between entrepreneurial failure and religious identity, but I believe that it can be studied in an extreme and fitting context, which is social entrepreneurship. And why does this matter? Because one of the things that I see so far, confirmed by studies, is that most prominent social entrepreneurial actions are actually conducted by religious individuals and religious organizations. But still, the relationship between religious identity and social entrepreneurship have not been explored enough. And also another thing, as I have mentioned already about entrepreneurship research as well, even within social entrepreneurship, you can see that the illustrations of success about social entrepreneurs who are successful and social ventures that are successful is much more, discussed, other than discussing, for example, how social entrepreneurs respond to venture failure. And I believe this is important because entrepreneurial failure is as important to understand the potential sustainability of social enterprises. So how are we going to go about doing this? So the aim of my study is to basically try to add to the body of knowledge regarding the relationship between religious identity and entrepreneurial failure using the social entrepreneurship context. And I believe that entrepreneurship research could also benefit in this, understanding where social entrepreneurship setting looks like, particularly around failure. So some of the questions that we are asking to further understand this problem or to further find a solution for this problem is that we thought that it makes sense to ask the roles such as the role of religion play, what kind of role does it play during and after entrepreneurial failure? Why do founders' religious identity affect how they cope with venture failure? How does religion help entrepreneurs cope with venture failure? So far, we have collected more than 20 plus interviews, in-depth interviews in Sweden, but we believe that it will be much better if we also look into data or collect data in another context so that we can have this cross-case analysis, not only to find individual heterogeneities, but also to compare in different contexts, in different regions. So we're looking at longitudinal study approach as the way to do this, because we'll be specifically looking into a process. Like I mentioned already, we'll be looking at organizations that are actually at the verge of filing for bankruptcy, have filed for bankruptcy, or are in the process of filing for bankruptcy. So what are we expecting to see in terms of the results from the study? So faith-infused perseverance is something that has been highlighted in the literature. We're expecting to see that the venture failure could be a critical event that can provoke the role of religion. But what's interesting for us, in which the previous speaker has actually mentioned already, is that we see that there is a key role that religion plays in how people deal with venture failure, particularly those who are religious. For example, some of our entrepreneurs, those who are religious, they see bankruptcy not as the end for their path, but rather a redirection to use their entrepreneurial efforts into achieving the same calling that they had initially, but using it in a different way. What are the expected contributions? So we believe that our study could contribute in identity literature and also in the entrepreneurship literature by pointing out how, what are the effects of religious identity what are the effects of religious identity on entrepreneurs' ability to cope with venture failure? And we believe that social entrepreneurs, researchers, and practitioners could actually benefit in getting more robust dialogue and understanding of entrepreneurial failure. Where to from here? So the plan is that the study is very much at the early stage. So we would like to expand it and sort of increase its robustness by collecting data in a different context like US, to also do more company visits. Maybe we might be, doing some shadowing with the entrepreneurs to check how they do things within, during the day with their work, how they interact with other people. And also it might be beneficial for us in this case to also maybe speak to additional stakeholders that are relevant in this case. But also I would like to build and strengthen collaborations to advance this project with junior and senior scholars in the US. I think that will be it. I would really appreciate any feedback that I receive. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I guess we can make this about procedural justice. I will ask the same, ask you to speculate as well. What I read in your paper is that the part that was that I assume will come out more with more data is this focus on social entrepreneurship, right? So could you tell us, you just told us a lot about religion and failure, and that's sort of your main relationship. Can you tell us more about what you expect to see the moderating role of social ventures on that relationship versus other religious people who might be experiencing entrepreneurial failure?
Yeah, so to begin with, to start their social ventures, at least with the entrepreneurs that I've spoken to, they started this because it was a calling that they had, for example, from God, whether to help people in terms of social integration, or help people to create the social venture as a bridge between those who are excluded in the society and those, for example, and the society. Basically, they want to be a bridge. And because the calling originates from God, it's not something that they wanted to do because they feel like it's an ethical thing to do, but it's beyond themselves. Therefore, we can see that, of course, there will be some perseverance there. And what's interesting, one case I'm going to make an example with, he even mentioned that he was walking in the same path as Jesus. So the journey that he takes is very much interesting, because everything that they do, some of them at least, that you can tell even within the organization that they run it in a very religious manner. The way the organization is structured, the way they communicate with their staff. Sometimes this is happening even at the detriment of their own well-being. So they very much prioritize achieving this objective that they have received from above. and they would go beyond using their ventures as a method to do that. Unlike someone who would start a social venture and they see maybe along the way that this is not working, and then they feel like maybe they want to do something else. But for them, this is a calling that is coming from above, at least for those who I have spoken to with